Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. Hope you are fine. This is history. The chapter is the causes of the decline of Mughal Empire, and the topic we are going to learn today is the East India Company. As we have discussed the causes of decline of Mughal Empire, and one of the reasons of the causes of decline of Mughal Empire, this chapter was the entry of the British. The entry of the British was a very important reason why the Mughal Empire declined. So when the British entered, the British founded a company which was called East India Company. Although this company was already founded in England, and then the East India Company, came in India for trade, and the British entered under the pretext of trade through East India Company in India. So in this topic, we will learn how the East India Company was formed and what was the background of East India Company. Here you can see that there is an emblem of East India Company. A sign or logo of East India Company is there. The introduction of East India Company is that it was a trading company which was also called Sir John's Company, and this company was actually chartered as the Governor and Company of Merchants of London, trading into the East Indies, and the company rose to account for half of the world's trade, particularly in basic commodities like silk, indigo. Indigo is a blue color, dye, and saltpeter, tea, and opium. Opium trade East India Company did with China especially. The company received a royal charter from Queen Elizabeth on 31st December 1600, and the wealthy merchants and aristocrats owned the company's shares. The government owned no shares in the beginning and had only indirect control. This was actually the introduction of the East India Company. Let's talk about the background of East India Company. The East India Company actually was founded by some very important events. In 1577, Francis Drake he set out on an expedition from England to plunder Spanish settlements in South America. So already the Spanish were settled in South America, and the British knew that the Spanish are now exploiting the resources of South America. Therefore, the British wanted to exploit the resources by themselves. So therefore, in 1577, an Englishman, Francis Drake, traveled to South America and for search of gold and silver. In the Golden Hind, he achieved this, but he also, by sheer luck, sailed across the Pacific Ocean in 1579, known then only to the Spanish and the Portuguese. So the Spanish and the Portuguese had already founded many places in the world, especially the South America and the Central America was discovered by them. The Drake eventually sailed into the East Indies and came across the Molucca, also known as the Spice Islands, and met with Sultan Babullah. In return for linen, gold, and silver, a large haul of exotic spices, including cloves and nutmegs, were traded. And the English initially not did not know the huge value of these spices. So, by traveling, this Francis Drake found the Spice Island, which was uh, which was a part of India, and then he received the spices from there. Then the this man Drake returned to England in 1580 and became a celebrated hero because he brought the spices from with him. His eventual circumnavigation, like his traveling or journey, raised an enormous amount of money for England's coffers and investors who received a return of some 5,000%. Like by spices, the people of England earned a lot of money. Thus started what was an important element in the Eastern design during the late 16th century. This was the time when the British merchants then started to trade in spices and to sell spices to other European countries for huge price. Then there were many expeditions, and the British men they went on the voyage to discover different lands. Most of the time, the travelers returned without any achievement, and some of the travelers and their boats were also sunk or disappeared. Then, after a long time, a sailor he returned to England, and his name was Ralph Fitch. He was an adventurer merchant who, along with his companions, had made a remarkable 15 years overland journey to Mesopotamia, which was Iraq, the Persian Gulf, the Indian Ocean, India, and Southeast Asia. Ralph Fitch was then consulted on the Indian affairs and gave even more valuable information about India and the other places he had visited. So, therefore, by the you know accounts of journey of Ralph Fitch, the British government and the private merchants also decided to do something different. Now let's talk about the formation of East India Company. Queen Elizabeth I was actually the having the royal position in Britain in the United Kingdom. On 22nd September 1599, a group of merchants met and stated their intention to venture in the pretended voyage to the East Indies, and that the sums they will adventure committing, like it was decided that the money which the merchants will earn, the share of the money will be given to the government also. 2 days later, the adventurers reconvened and resolved to apply to the Queen for support of the project. Although their first attempt had not been completely successful, but then uh, they wanted to seek the Queen's unofficial approval to continue. Then the approval was given to them, and they bought ships for their venture and increased their capital to high value, which was about 68,000 pound at that time, which was very high. So this is the man, George Earl of Cumberland, who was given the consent and the royal charter for the company. The adventurers convened again a year later on 31st December, and this time they succeeded. The Queen granted a royal charter to George Earl of Cumberland and 215 knights, aldermen, and burgesses. These are the positions and the ranks: knights, aldermen, and burgesses. These were given the charter under the name Governor and Company of Merchants of London, trading into the East Indies. East Indies was actually not at that time only India, but the places which were far from India also towards the east of India, including Malaysia and other countries. For a period of 15 years, the charter awarded the newly formed company a monopoly on English trade with all countries east of the Cape of Good Hope and west of the Straits of Magellan. So the company traded in vast areas, and from east to west, from Africa to the extreme east, and then any traders in breach of the charter. The charter was actually given, and it was also stated that any traveler or any merchant who breaches or violates the rule of the charter, so without a license from the company, were liable to forfeiture of their ships and cargo, like their particulars and property will be confiscated, and half of which went to the crown and the other half to the company, as well as then imprisonment could also be taken place, like the person could be jailed who violates the rule of the charter. This is the image of the royal charter of E.I.C, which was given to the people who founded the East India Company. The governance of the company, this is the structure of the company now. The governance of the company was in the hands of one governor and 24 directors. or committees who made up the court of directors. They in turn reported to the court of proprietors, which appointed them. The committees reported to the court of directors. According to the traditions, business was initially transacted at the Nagas Head Inn. This was a building where from the initially the business was taking place, and this building was there in England, opposite to St. Botolph's Church in Bishopsgate, before moving to India's house in Leadenhall Street. Then it was a place where from the operation of the business was being carried on. Now let's talk about the entry of East India Company in India, that how East India Company entered India. The English traders frequently engaged in hostilities with their Dutch and Portuguese counterparts in the Indian Ocean. As I've told you that the Spanish and Portuguese, they were already in South and Central America, in Mexico, which is now Mexico, and the British had gone over there to actually take charge of such places and to exploit the resources over there. Britishers were more powerful than Spanish and Portuguese. Likewise, when the Britishers reached India, they found the Portuguese and Dutch over there again. The company achieved a major victory over the Portuguese in the Battle of Savali. A battle was fought between the British East India Company soldiers and the Portuguese also at in the port of Surat, which is in Gujarat, in 1612. The company decided to explore the feasibility of gaining a territorial foothold in mainland India. Now the company wanted to make some trading post or to make some strongholds and make some buildings where the company could actually build its own headquarters and offices in India. So the company actually then decided with official sanction from both Britain and the Mughal Empire and requested that the crown launched a diplomatic mission. Like now the company traders wanted, because they were the private merchants, the company traders wanted that the king or emperor, Mughal emperor of India, and the queen, the royal head also must have some relation and some negotiations, so that the merchants, the British merchants, could be given facilities here in India when the relationship of both of the countries gets stronger. In 1612, James I instructed Sir Thomas Roe to visit the Mughal emperor. Now the James I, who was the king of England after Queen Elizabeth, he instructed a merchant and traveler, Sir Thomas Roe, who was also a courtier of James I, to visit the Mughal Emperor Nuruddin Salim Jahangir, who was the son of Akbar, to arrange for a commercial treaty that would give the company exclusive rights to reside and establish factories in Surat and other areas. In return, the company offered to provide the emperor with goods and rarities and very precious things from the European market. This mission was highly successful, and Jahangir sent a letter to James through Sir Thomas Roe. And what was the letter and what was written in that letter? Let's see, this was the letter which was sent by Jahangir to Sir Thomas Roe. It states that the upon which assurance of your royal love, and I have given my general command to all the kingdoms and ports of my dominions to receive all the merchants of the English nation as the subjects of my friend, that in what place soever they choose to live, they may have free liberty without any restraint, and at what port soever they shall arrive, that neither Portugal nor any other shall dare to molest their quiet. and in what city soever they shall have residence, I have commanded all my governors and captains to give them freedom answerable to their own desires, to sell, buy, and to transport into their country at their pleasure. For confirmation of our love and friendship, I desire your majesty to command your merchants to bring in their ships of all sorts of rarities and rich goods for my palace, and that you be pleased to send me your royal letters by every opportunity. So likewise, it so on. You know, Jahangir gave permission to James I for sending the merchants, and it was also shown that Jahangir was having very much favorable behavior for the British merchants. Like he was saying that the British merchants could be treated in India as friends, and no any other European nation who already you know is there, inhabits there, like Portuguese, they will never try to molest and frustrate the British, and the British can build their posts, trading posts anywhere in any port area, so they are free now. So therefore, such was the matter of the letter which was written to James I, and now the Britishers were independently making their ports and making their trading post over there in India. So finally, the East India Company comes to expand itself. For expansion of East India Company, the company established trading post in Surat in 1619, in Madras in 1639, in Bombay in 1668, and in Calcutta in 1690. By 1647, the company had 23 factories, each under the command of a factor or master and a governor, and 90 employees in India. The major factories became the walled forts of Fort William in Bengal, like Fort William was founded in Calcutta, Fort St. George in Madras, and one more fort which was named as Bombay Castle in Bombay. These forts were constructed and built by the British for keeping themselves safe, and to keep arms and ammunition in these forts, and to keep the army also in these forts to make their defense stronger, and to make them prepared for any situation if there is any reaction from the Indians in future. In 1634, the Mughal Emperor Jahangir extended his hospitality to the English traders to the region of Bengal, and in 1717 completely waived custom duties for their trade also. So Jahangir was showing very much favor to them. The company's mainstay business was by then cotton, silk, indigo dye, saltpeter, and tea. These were actually the things which the company was taking from India and exporting to other countries of the world, of the Europe especially. The Dutch were aggressive competitors, and had meanwhile expanded their monopoly of the spice trade in the states of Malacca by ousting the Portuguese. So Portuguese had been ousted and had been driven out by the Dutch already, and Dutch were having monopoly now. With reduced Portuguese and Spanish influence in the region, the E.I.C and VOC entered a period of intense competition. So resulting in the Anglo-Dutch wars of the 17th and 18th century. So VOC was a company of the Dutches who were already trading there, but there was a fight between the British and the Dutch, and these fights continued for a long time until the British maintained their supremacy over the Mughal Empire or over Indian Empire. Then the company, fresh from a colossal victory and with the backing of its own private, well disciplined, and experienced army, was able to assert its interest in the Carnatic regions. Carnatic regions was there in the south of India, in southeast of India especially, in Bengal from Calcutta, without facing any further obstacles from other colonial powers like Dutch, Portuguese, Spanish. The Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II, who with his allies fought against the East India Company during his early years, accepted the protection of the British in the year 1803, only after he had been blinded by his enemies and deserted by his subjects. It continued to experience resistance from local rulers during the expansion, like Robert Clive, who was the governor and he was also an officer of the East India Company. He led company forces against Sirajuddaulah, who was the Nawab of Bengal and the last independent Nawab of Bengal, Bihar, and Midnapur district in Odisha. So Nawab of Bengal was actually defeated at the Battle of Plassey, and the British were the victors in 1757. Then it resulted in the conquest of Bengal. This victory actually estranged the British and the Mughals, since Sirajuddaulah was a Mughal feudatory ally. Sirajuddaulah was actually an ally of the Mughal emperor. Ally means that he was, you can say, a friend of Mughal emperor, or Mughal emperors had patronage for the for Nawab Sirajuddaulah. That led to the Battle of Buxar. Then afterwards, in 1764, one more battle was fought, which was the Battle of Buxar, in which again the areas of Awadh and Bengal and some more areas, these were captured by the British. And the Battle of Buxar also proved that the British wanted to actually capture the areas of Bengal, because the Bengal was a very important area, and now the British influence was growing in Bengal after the Battle of Buxar. Then, with the gradual weakening of the Marathas in the aftermath of the three Anglo-Maratha wars, Marathas were also, they were Hindus and they were also trying to resist the British expansion and the British influence. Then there were fights of British with Marathas, and the British got victory over Marathas, and the British actually ended the Maratha Empire. And now the British, they almost cleared away all the obstacles for themselves which were in the way of their influence in India. Then there was one more resistance for the British, and it was in the south, in the kingdom of Mysore. It was Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan. Hyder Ali was the father of Tipu Sultan. After the death of Hyder Ali resisted and defeated the British in two battles. But after him, Tipu Sultan, he was the son of Hyder Ali, who had established his empire in the Mysore. So Tipu Sultan was defeated by the British because of betrayal of his own man, and in 1799 the kingdom of Mysore was also, you know, ended, and it came under the influence of the British. So this was the British expansion which we are learning here. So the British expansion actually here, let me correct it. So the British were facing the resistance from uh, Tipu Sultan from the kingdom of Mysore, and he proved to be very strong against the British, but unfortunately, due to the betrayal of his own men, he was also defeated by the British. So, moreover, the British then captured some more areas, and then the British introduced a policy which was called the Doctrine of Lapse in 1852. And after this policy of Doctrine of Lapse, then the British were able to capture the land, especially the princely states, because the Doctrine of Lapse stated that any princely state which does not have the legal heir, or the emperor does not have the real son, the state would go to the British directly. So the British captured the state of Nagpur and other states by this doctrine of lapse. And then from 1757 to 1857, within these 100 years, the British expanded more and more. And in 1857, when there was the War of Independence, after the War of Independence, the East India Company was almost abolished by the government of the Britain. But before that, we can see that there had been pandemics and in Bengal, the diseases in Bengal. In these diseases, especially the cholera was a disease there in Bengal due to malnutrition. 10,000 British troops they died, and this disease was so strong at that time that between 1760 and 1834, only some 10% of the East India Company's officers survived to take the final voyage home. So, but the company was on at its peak after 1757, after the Battle of Plassey, and then it was declining by the time when there was the War of Independence of 1857. Now the dissolution of the company was there. The British passed an Act of Parliament, and this was called the Regulating Act of 1773. According to this act, the British stated that this clearly established Parliament's sovereignty and ultimate control over the company. Because now East India Company, its dealings were actually suspicious, and the company officers and officials were involved in corruption. The condition of Bengal was very much worst, because the East India Company was collecting taxes, high taxes from Bengal, and the poor people of Bengal were dying because of the shortage of food. There have been famines in Bengal, so therefore these activities of East India Company shocked the British government, and the British government then announced in the Regulating Act that East India Company will not involve in the politics, but it will do only the trade. Acquisition of sovereignty by the subjects of the crown is on behalf of the crown and not in its own right. So now the East India Company was restricted and limited to only trade, not to involve in the politics of India. Then in 1774, William Pitt, the Prime Minister of the Britain, passed an act which differentiated again the East India Company's political functions, and this Act of 1774 also stated that the Governor General will be appointed by the British and government, and this Governor General will be the Governor General of the whole India, who was later called the Viceroy of India. So before that, the governor used to be the Governor of Bengal, but now the title of governor was given as the Governor General. So firstly the Governor General was the Governor General of Bengal, and then it was made the Governor of the whole India, and then the Governor General was titled as the Viceroy. So now the Governor General was actually directly appointed by the British government, and it was reporting to the British government. The politics came in the hands of the British government, and the East India Company was restricted only to trade. So this was the actual result with the East India Company. To accomplish that, the Act created a Board of Commissioner for the Affairs of India, usually referred to as the Board of Control. So this was actually the a system was created in which the British government and the Prime Minister and the ministers, uh, you know, they wanted to keep themselves informed with all the activities, whatever was going on in India. Then in 1857, whatever happened after the 1857, the British government announced the Government of India Act in 1858, in which the East India Company was abolished, but uh, East India Company was allowed for a little operation. The company remained in existence and continuing to manage the tea trade only, and that was also on behalf of the British government. So, and the supply of Saint Helena until the East India Stock Dividend Redemption Act in 1873. Uh, this act provided for the formal dissolution of the company on 1st June 1874 after final dividend payment and the commutation or redemption of its stock. Then all the stock of East India Company, it was divided, and whatever share was by the shareholders, it was given to them, and then the East India Company was completely abolished in 1874. A newspaper, The Times, commented on 8th April 1873 on this dissolution of East India Company that it accomplished a work such as in the whole history of the human race no other trading company ever attempted, and such as none surely is likely to attempt in the years to come. Like the Times News is stating that the East India Company has done such work in the history which no any other trading company has done, and neither any trading company can do such work or such thing in the future. So finally the East India Company was dissolved, and then the uh, the government or the all the activities of the politics came directly in the hand of the British government. So hopefully you have understood each and everything in this topic. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.